You must not have celiac disease for you to enjoy that much grain.
Hey. Yeah, so this is going to be awkward.
Yeah,
so
this is the first time we're doing it, too.
Acknowledge that, you know what I mean? And that's fine.
And I'm always awkward.
So. Me too. First thing I have, maybe we could do is just go around, do some introductions, tell the good people who we are. Maybe we can begin with, like, a little bit of what draws us to the scary movie genre, you know? So I'm Harry Nichols, and I am an alcoholic. No.
Hi, Harry.
I like scary movies. I think I started liking scary movies because I just liked the adrenal thrill as a youngster, and have stuck around. I came for the thrills and the dirty, depraved feeling that comes from the best ones, I think. I don't know.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Aaron Arm, and I didn't think I liked scary movies until I finally went to a theater and watched one.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like roller coasters for me, whereas like I went most of my childhood thinking, well, why would I do that?
Right.
And I actually saw The Ring as my first one, which was a really good first one.
Yeah.
Because it was scary, but like digestibly so.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, I could do that. And I like it because it's art, and art is meant to make you feel something.
Mm-hmm.
And fear is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. First, The Ring is in my top 10.
Mm-hmm.
The remake, I know people will disagree on that, but the remake, The Ring is in my top 10 horror.
You actually won't get disagreement from me from that. But,
Okay,
yeah.
awesome. I should say I'm Jen Lightfoot, and I honestly, I don't know. Okay, so the story I think about is like, you know, in Fantasia, there's like the Night on Bald Mountain scene. Mm-hmm. My mom wouldn't let me see Fantasia. My dad took me, and I came home, and I was like, I know.
Wait, is that the one with the dinosaur?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. This one had like a devil. It's like the
okay.
devil.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
So like the flames. And my mom thought
you.
I'd be too scared. So I don't know. I was like 5. And she was like, no, you're not allowed. So I went to my dad's house and he took me. And I couldn't keep my mouth shut. So I went home, told my mom. I was like, I saw Fantasia. My favorite part was like the devil dropping all the bodies. And I feel like since then, I've just liked creepy shit.
Your mom was like, pediatrician.
Right? I mean, to be fair, she read me Annabelle Lee, Edgar Allan Poe. It was a bedtime story at night, so I feel like, yeah.
So you've had like a taste for the occult since the beginning.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Backtrack. Fantasia. You mean the Disney?
Yeah, the Disney one.
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, but there's like the devil.
Yeah, that's early on. That was the only VCR tape that my grandma had.
Oh my God.
And when I went to visit her, you know, growing up, that's what I would do. I'd watch that movie because there was nothing else for me to watch. So I have a strong attachment to Fantasia.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome.
I'm told that as a kid, I was taken to Fantasia in the theaters, like as a baby, and my parents were like, my dad was like, he's never gonna watch it. And my mom was like, let's try it, and I sat and watched the whole thing.
It's a long-ass movie.
It's a long movie for like a tiny baby to take in, you know?
Yeah.
I think it speaks to the...
I like that we all had a story about Fantasia.
We totally did have a story about... Well, I wanted to say I have a story about The Ring, too, because, like, The Ring was the first one I watched, too.
That was in the theater?
No, I didn't go and see it in theaters, but it was the first one I sought out. I sought out at the movie store. We rented it. Yeah.
The first, and in my recollection, scariest movie I ever saw was a comedy when I was about 5 years old that I had no business watching as a 5-year-old. Right. And in my mind, it was the scariest thing.
What was it?
Nope, that'll be a story for another time. That's not what we're talking about.
That's not what we're talking about.
No.
That's not. No, we're here to talk about Skinamarink, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are.
Skinamarink. All right, so I want to put somebody who's not me on the spot to try to summarize what happens in Skinamarink.
Well, maybe...
And it's going to be Aaron.
Yeah.
So do you remember Internet 1.0, I'll call it? Or maybe right on the threshold of Internet 2.0. Right around the birth of memeing, I'd say.
Like salad fingers?
Yeah, but like...
Early random core.
More like when your friend sends you a link in AOL Instant Messenger and you don't know what the link goes to, and you open the link and it's a car driving down a mountain.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
Okay, so jump scares.
Sure.
The movie for me was, what was it, 2 hours?
It's an hour 40.
Yeah.
It was an hour and 40 minutes of watching a car go down a mountain, waiting for the jump scare, and at some point in that hour and 40 minutes, it happens 2 or 3 times.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But let me actually summarize it.
I feel like I'm getting a lot of opinion in this story.
That's my thesis.
Should summary be, like, objective?
No! Listen, that's why that's why I just said summarize without any additional prompting.
Skinamarink is... This is my objective summary. Skinamarink is a modern art piece filmed as if it's from the perspective of a child, and arguably his sibling, but it centers on him, as he explores the dark reaches of his house at night, as a demonic force seems to be toying with him and his family, albeit most of the shots are not of him or anything, but rather corners of the house and the sort of unknown shadows that lurk when you're, say, a 5-year-old kid at night and you're scared. And things may or may not be happening.
Right.
So most shots are as if you're a little kid looking at nothing in particular, trying to discern what's going on, and once in a while something happens.
Yeah. So could you follow? Were there events that you kind of like pinpointed as like, what were they? Like what?
I would say we're talking about major plot points here, right?
Yeah, I mean
we're talking about the. You know what? We can't talk about this without talking about Paranormal Activity.
Sure.
Interesting.
I get that.
And one of the mainstays of both is that it's a slow build up from questioning whether anything is happening to, well, okay, there's definitely something happening.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's very, very gradual. So if we want to, plot out what happens, we could go into great detail about like, oh, then this thing moved. But
right. No, we shouldn't do. Let's
broadly.
That's way too much.
Broadly, the boy has a sister who is punished by the demonic force for not playing along in some fashion. There is the visitation to the parents' room, which we'll have to come back to.
We have to talk about that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Honestly, most of what happens is in the final act, where it kind of gets dialed up quickly, and it's like, oh, everything has happened all of a sudden, and yet it hasn't.
Right, yeah.
Everything and nothing has happened.
Yeah. I know. Jen, anything to add? Anything that we're forgetting about as far as like what happens in this movie? Or?
Well, there is one thing. Okay, so I may have watched it 3 times. And
good. Thrice.
I may have, I skimmed some articles and then forgot them. But,
I skimmed an article or 2 as well, but go ahead.
Right, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, I can't write
Every time I watch something that's like too weird for me to comprehend, I have to like read a little book.
Just a little,
tell me what to think.
Yeah, what should I feel? I was thinking the part where he falls down the stairs. Or Kevin falls down the stairs.
Very beginning.
Yeah, I thought that was like a brilliant, like, short storytelling, because it's like, all you see is a banister, and then you hear like a tumble, and then you hear crying, and then immediately you see lights turn on, but you're like not seeing people. Like you don't see any people. There's no dialogue.
Yeah.
But the lights turn on, a door opens and shuts, and you hear a car go away. You know that like, okay, he got hurt. They're going to the doctors or the hospital. Like it's so simple.
Right.
Like it's so clever and so simple. But yeah, I won't talk about one of the theories yet.
Okay.
Because I don't.
I've probably read it.
We've all it's probably the most common one that I'm like, I don't know if I want to believe it or not.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like the hitting on the head lends itself to other theories.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's important to note that you hear an adult. There is like an adult in the movie in the very beginning of the movie, and then that's it for all the adults.
The,
you know
the
what I mean?
father.
The dad. Is it the dad for sure?
He talks on the phone too, but we don't know who. It's almost like he's talking to the mom.
And yeah,
Are they divorced?
Clearly, something's going on there, right?
Yeah.
It's such a weird movie to try to piece together the exact events of, particularly like you mentioned that last act. It's just like
so much happens.
And it turns into just absolute like chaos, you know what I mean?
I feel like we should rate it. Like we should all go around and say like
okay, I'm down with that. No, let's do it.
I'm like
that was also on my list. So perfect.
I just jumped to it. Like a 1 to, I don't know, how would 1 to 10? 1 to 5? What's simple?
Let's go with I like more gradients than fewer gradients. You know what I mean? Okay. So let's go with 10. 1 to 10.
What's 1 and what's 10?
1 is like trash.
The worst movie you've ever seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 10 is like
the best movie.
The best thing ever.
Work of art. Yeah.
Okay.
Genius.
All right. Aaron, you go first.
Oh.
3.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm low. I'm gonna.
You're lowballing it. Yeah. I'm like more like a 7 or 8.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
I'm like a 9.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Okay.
All right, so I feel like we should go in reverse order. Why the 9?
I love weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
But it really reminded me. It reminded me of David Lynch in a way. So like, I know he's technically not horror, but like I lump him in with horror.
He
sometimes.
gravitates in that direction a lot,
right?
Yeah.
Like it veers. So it reminded me of that because it's like the familiar and like mundane, but like it's really unsettling and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like I liked how movies don't scare me. Like horror movies don't scare me.
Right.
But I was watching this, like, we'll get to the scene, but when she, all spoiler right now, but when she, like, looks under the bed, I was, like, freaking out.
Yeah, that was very uncomfortable for me as well.
In the visiting the parents' room.
Yeah.
And there's there's never anything under there, right? There's nothing under there. It's so uncomfortable.
What makes it for a 7, 8 for you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just kind of bridging two worlds here. Like, I like the creative storytelling. I like that you have to piece it together. But I do think that the final act is kind of a cop-out. It just gives itself to, like, surrealism. And, like, sort of an, like, abstract thing without really giving us too much else in the way of plot. And that, to me, feels like a cop-out. So, like, you know, I really enjoyed the build-up. I really enjoyed, you know, like 90% of it. Mm-hmm. And then just that last 10%, not that I hate it, but, you know, I feel like it felt like we just kind of got tired of telling this story and now we're just going to end it in this way. When
did that point start for you?
It's the point at which, what's the kid's name?
Kevin.
It's because you've seen it 3 times. It's the point at which Kevin starts being on the ceiling. That's where, and he's on the ceiling and he's walking toward the parents' room.
Okay.
And then he opens the door to the parents' room, and then it just kind of totally.
Because after that, you get like the number on the screen, and like like it's all the toys are on the wall, like
right.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you have this weird zoom out where like all of the toys are just in a giant dune on the ceiling, and then it just gets weirder and weirder from there.
Okay.
A 3.
So. Let me preface this by saying I love weird shit. I like experimental stuff. I like David Lynch. I I will never hold something against a work of art because they're trying to do something new. And that might be the only saving grace of this.
Gotcha. That's the only reason it got as much as a 3.
Because, like, hey man, you tried to do something.
Right.
What did you not like?
What I didn't like was that, as a horror movie, I want something to earn the scariness factor. And the reason I think I opened with a thesis of jump scares is because that's where I thought the only scariness was coming from. It just felt like it was only relying on you waiting for something to pop out. And it would be interesting to talk about what jump scares we think work or don't work in movies.
Totally.
But to me, it felt like it was one repeated long gimmick. Regarding the story, it kind of felt like just throwing stuff in a wall and asking the audience to figure it out without making a good faith effort to really suggest something or make it feel cohesive. It was kind of like, well, what if I did this now? And who knows? It could be anything. And it might be my small, smooth brain unable to piece it together on my own and reap the reward. But when I was watching, it felt like, oh, he's just throwing stuff out there.
I think that you're not totally incorrect. I mean, I think that certainly this movie is made up of small events that are meant to seem unsettling, and they don't all add up to a big puzzle picture. We never really get any answer as to why are the toys on the ceiling, and why does the toilet disappear, and why. Well, Jen, I feel like you have a thought. Go ahead.
So,
I did like that.
You liked it to that part with the
because it felt like it was going somewhere.
But it's interesting. I do think that there was actually a plot. Like a stream, and you can interpret it in different ways.
Yeah.
But you mentioned it being scary. It's fascinating. I actually don't think a horror movie has to be scary for it to be excellent. I think
unsettling
or disturbing or makes me feel ugh is actually scarier.
Yeah, okay.
But there's something else I was going to say, and now I had a brain fart.
Cohesive story.
Might have been that. I don't think it was.
Disappearing toilets?
Yes! Thank you. Yeah. Disappearing. So, like the nerd I am, I put notes in my phone because what is it called? Presto Changeo. So, alright, I watched this movie with subtitles. Okay. Because I watch everything with subtitles.
Nice.
And so it gave away some things. It said that the cartoon was called Presto Changeo. That's why I know that. I didn't dig deep that far. Right. But, so when that's happening, it's like the rabbit is shrinking and disappearing. And then it focuses on the snake, the toy snake, and it disappears. Right. And so I feel like, even though that happens later in the movie, it's showing us that in the subtitles, it calls it a monster too, even though there's no indication ever that it's a monster. Learning to get rid of things. So it's learning through the children's cartoons. It's kind of how I read that. And then at the end, when he kills, or it, whatever it is, kills the children, you see the blood splatter and then it disappears, and then you see the blood splatter and it disappears. I read that as it doing the
the Presto Changeo.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Yep. Wow. See, that's great. I love that. Thank you.
I made that connection with the cartoon because it kept focusing on the cartoon. So I saw that, and my question would be, and this is going back to what a professor in college would write on papers if you'd never led a thought somewhere in a paragraph. So what? So so the thing is, it parallels the cartoon.
Yeah. So what?
Okay. And? Yeah. Does that tell us anything about it or the characters or the situation there?
I guess that's also part of my larger critique of it as well, is that we have these scary things that happen. I guess I'm not given any kind of motive. You know what I mean? No,
motive for
no reason for why this thing is doing this to them,
So,
you know?
one of the theories...
Go!
Because we're just going to jump into it. And I don't know, I feel like it's an easy one to read into, is that he's in a coma.
Yeah.
That he hit his head, he's in a coma, the 572 number is how many days he's been in the coma.
Interesting.
So, like, it's all in his head. I don't know how much I love that reading, because I'm kind of tired of movies doing a coma thing.
Right.
But,
I'd read something similar, but not that it was a coma, just that he was, like, concussed. And it said his, like, concussion dream, you know?
Okay.
I think it's, like... it's funny you mentioned David Lynch earlier in this, because, like, one of my favorite David Lynch movies is Mulholland Drive.
It's a great one.
It's a great one. Kind of infamous, right?
Yeah.
And the thing about Mulholland Drive is it actually makes perfect sense because the entire movie is a dream. But you don't realize it except unless you pay attention to the first 30 seconds of the movie, right? Which is a point of view shot of a head. It's not a head. It's point of view, right? But it comes up from a pillow and it rolls over and it goes back down on the pillow. And that's the only reason you would know that movie's a dream, right? And so I really got this feeling that there was a real, like, evoking of almost that exact movie
that's interesting.
in this. Because of that concussion early in the movie. If you forgot about it, you would be like, what the fuck was this?
Yeah, and it is almost like two complete... So having watched it 3 times, I noticed something on the 3rd time, was that they focus on a bookshelf. And in the beginning of the movie, the photos... this is what I saw, because again, it's hard to see much in it. But on the bookshelf, there are pictures of kids, and they have heads. And then at the end, after his concussion, they don't have heads.
Oh, interesting.
So is it a coma? I was like, could it be like a parallel universe type thing? Is it his dream? But then why would Kaylee be so involved in it? I don't know.
Why would Kaylee be so involved if it was a dream?
Yeah,
well, it could
or like
be
his
in
coma
between.
thing, or it could be...
He could be
like
concussed
hearing.
and walking around.
That's true.
You're not,
yeah, sure.
You're not
that's
unconscious necessarily.
Right,
like a mild
sure.
concussion type thing. Yeah, that's true.
Like a sleepwalking episode? Because they talk about how
And
they're a sleepwalker, right? Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, interesting. Super interesting.
I do, as much as I love it, I do agree about some of the ending. I love the killing, the blood splattery thing.
Yeah.
I love, I do like the toys on the wall, but I feel like there is more of a plot line happening, and then it does get very surreal, which I like it visually, but I don't know how I feel about it narratively. And I feel this way every time I've watched it, where I'm like, this is enjoyable. I like the shots. They look like paintings. It's pretty. But why certain shots? Like, why the little house?
Right, yeah, I didn't understand that. Yeah. I mean, I guess I have guesses based on my, like, thematic reading of the movie, but, like, I don't... Yeah, I couldn't really speak to any specificity as to, like, why that specific image. Tell me about your feelings going through this movie. Like, what were your emotions getting into it, coming through the end? What did you have? I can start. Let me start. I'll start because we make Aaron do a lot first. I'll start, and I will tell you that it is. It was tough. It was really tough. So since having kids, watching scary movies has gotten really fucking hard.
Especially if they feature kids.
Especially if they feature kids and are about kids, and mostly feature shots of like sweet little kids' feet, and you know what I mean, like involve terrible things happening to kids. So it was a really goddamn hard movie for me to watch, and it led me to this feeling that this movie was about, like, you know, like the powerlessness of children and the feeling of powerlessness of childhood in a household. Like, clearly I think what's going on here is that, like, this is a house that, yeah, the parents are divorced, right? There's probably a lot of emotions about, like, not having any say in that, not having any agency in that, right? And so, to me, the monster is kind of like a manifestation of that feeling of powerlessness, right? Like, it moves your toys to the ceiling when you're not watching. It, you know, takes away your mouth. It doesn't even allow you to really see what's happening, right? You're so powerless that you don't actually get to witness the action. You don't get to know its name at the end, right? You don't. There's so much like powerlessness in this movie for me that like that was my major thematic reading of it, and that's what gave it made it so fucking hard to watch for me. Jen, your feelings, your thoughts?
Okay, well, I started it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, this movie's going to take me a long time to watch. Because I feel like my attention span is low. I'm on my phone. I was like, no, this is a movie I have to pay attention to. Even though nothing's happening, I have to watch it. I felt like I don't know. Like, I don't have kids. I did think about that for people who have kids watching it. It must be harder. I did still, like, I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, I feel bad for the children. Like, I don't see them.
Right.
I don't know anything about them, but I feel like when he gets stabbed in the eye, it's just horrifying.
Interesting use of the passive tense there.
When
he gets stabbed in the eye.
Right.
Or I guess he stabs himself in the eye.
But he has to do what the monster says, right?
Yeah. But I think it like starts out where you're like, what is this? Because the first shot, it's almost like, what am I looking at? Like, because it's shot with like looking down at the carpet, but people are playing with toys.
Right.
And it says 1995. And as it goes on, I was like, oh, okay, I'm here for this, but it's just going to be like a similar vibe the entire time. And then when there was a jump scare, I don't remember which was the first jump scare, but the first one, I jumped, and I don't do that with horror movies, because I was like, this is going to be an even-keeled movie.
Right. Led you into a false sense of security somehow, this movie?
Definitely felt like I was in a nightmare. I was like, the tops of doors have never been so horrifying to me.
Right. And the corners of rooms.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was trying to figure out some kind of correlation between... I had the art school kid in me. Was like, okay, so like piecing things together the whole time. Like, they're watching this cartoon with like, there's two children and they're going up to heaven. Does that mean both children are dead? And that's what it's representing. Right. So that's honestly like what my nerd brain was doing most of the time. But also just being like, this is so weird.
Yeah,
creepy,
sure.
And I love it.
So you're just like, you were drinking in the strangeness of it, you know?
Yeah, I was going to go with it. I was just going to be like, let's see and like, let's roll with this.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that nothing was ever explained. I don't love when movies are ambiguous and then try to tie it up in a nice bow at the end, because I'm like, if you are meaning to make an ambiguous experimental film, leave it that way, open to the viewer. But yeah, okay, that's all I got.
Okay. I think I mostly felt anger.
Yeah.
Honestly,
at the movie, and after about 15 minutes, I figured out, okay, this is the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. Let's do it.
Right.
I think the more I watched, the angrier I got that I wasn't getting a story that made me care about anyone. Because there are characters, but not really.
You didn't, And you didn't have any dad feels? Like, no, like...
the only time I felt bad, I guess you'd say, is in the scene where you hear him crying after stabbing. That's rough.
Yeah.
Because it's a kid crying.
Totally, yeah.
I love how the whole movie you're just like, fuck these kids. Like, you're like, whatever.
Man, see, I was hooked on these kids from the beginning, man. They're like...
Right?
But they're like, they don't know where their parents are. They're like,
so
I know, they don't know where their parents are. They're like hiding out in the living room together. I love you too.
I love you.
Oh man, come on.
But that's it.
You gotta have more kids. That's your problem, man.
No, I'm angry that I feel bad for him in that moment because I don't think there's anything else in the movie that you'd really call character development. And I know it's not supposed to be. Mm-hmm. I know it's like the movie is... Kevin is like a surrogate for the viewer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is, a lot of times in stories we say like writers use characters as their surrogates, but it's sort of the other way around where he needs to exist just so there is a character through which we can pretend we're little kids who are scared in the dark.
That's interesting.
But then in that case, I didn't feel bad for myself because I'm just forced to stare at walls waiting for something to happen. And most of the anger, and the interesting part is that for an extended period of the movie, I was like, I had my eyes half closed, or I had hands in front of my eyes waiting for a jump scare.
Right.
And being angry about it. Because just get it over with.
Right.
You stupid, undeserved jump scare.
Yeah.
It's like if you watch I'm going to keep coming back to it. If you watch like one of those short YouTube videos with a jump scare,
right,
it can still scare you, and you're angry about it afterward.
Right.
Because it wasn't fun.
Right.
It's like getting punched. You feel something, but you don't like it.
Right.
And that's how I felt through most of it.
Yeah, but there was no punch, right? So you it was like someone being like, I'm gonna punch you, and then there's no punch in the end.
I feel like that makes the jump scare better, though. Like, when it happens.
When you get it. Yeah, when you get it.
I think a good jumps... Okay, I'll give you a good example of a jump scare. And I'm gonna... Here comes me not knowing titles.
Bring it on.
Describe it.
It's not Sinister. It's the other one with a name. No, one word.
Oh, Insidious.
Thank you. In Insidious, there's the moment where the main dude, can't do names,
the guy,
is recounting some dream or some moment he had, and it's building the tension.
Right.
And you see the demon over the shoulder of the woman.
I remember this. I remember the exact scene.
I think it's a good jump scare because it builds the tension.
Yeah.
He's telling a story. It uses the tone to kind of set up a moment. And then it doesn't like... The jump scare isn't front and center with a loud bang. It's more like you notice it. So it's sort of a natural... You noticing something out of the corner of your eye.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
That came all of a sudden.
Yeah.
On the other end of the spectrum, in The Ring, to come back to The Ring.
Let's go, yeah.
I know that name. Toward the beginning of the movie where they have the first death and the mother just says, I saw her face, and then they show her.
Right, yeah, I remember that, yep.
That's like more of a traditional jump scare because it does like come at you, there's a loud noise, it's a scary picture.
Yeah.
But at the same time, again, there's sort of like a build-up, a tie-in with you expecting some payoff from the story that's being told. And it's almost like a prank you laugh about afterward. Like, they got me. That's different from this movie where it's literally nothing happening. It could just be a series of pictures.
Right.
And randomly 3 or 4 times there's a loud noise. And that feels unearned. And I think that's why it makes me mad.
It's interesting to you that you say that feels unearned to me. Because to me it feels... more earned than most jump scares that I've... So I actually wrote this... I wrote a whole treatise about jump scares,
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, I did. There is a sweet spot with jump scares, right? And there is a way to earn them and a way to not earn them, in my opinion. Overusing them turns into... Like, it's so funny also that you brought up Insidious. Because, like, that's a movie to me that... I liked it a lot, actually. It was a really scary movie, and it jump scares you. Like, it gives you a lot of fucking jumps, that movie.
I don't even remember that.
There are a ton of jumps in that movie, and it borders on too much. Because when you have too many, it becomes absurd. It feels like you're playing peekaboo with a ghost.
Like a haunted house.
Like a haunted house thing. And so I think I got so jaded on the jump scare based horror movie that I started veering in the other direction, which really gave me like a taste for this kind of movie, like Skinamarink, where it's such a slow burn, like an excruciatingly slow burn, and the payoffs are so few and far between. You know, I don't know if you how you feel.
I feel Insidious. I enjoyed it while watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Not a huge fan of it.
Really?
I don't remember it super well, but I kind of feel like some of those.
I just remember it being fun. You know,
fun.
I remember being fun.
It's like a Hollywood horror.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is I enjoy those sometimes, but it's like I feel like I agree with you. Sometimes those jump scares. Like I think of like I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but like the new It movie, like I felt like had like a few of those where he's running towards you and you're supposed to be scared and you're like no, but okay. Too many. I feel like by the end it's predictable.
Yeah.
I feel like often the person behind somebody is predictable, or like walking past a door and seeing something is like I don't know, like this. Yes, the loud noise does in a way create the jump scare, but I felt like it was different than the others because there is so much slowness before it that you can't predict when they're going to happen. Like, it's not predictable. I don't know.
Which maybe is kind of a point in Aaron's favor, actually, because, like, I feel like what your point is that, like, there's a way to build it up, right?
That's true.
There's a way
and I'm
to...
saying the opposite.
Well, I mean, we're saying the same thing, but we have different feelings about it.
Right.
My feelings are like, I could make this sort of jump scare.
Yeah.
I could take a picture, turn it into a 2-hour video, and
then also throw in a yeah. No, I hear that.
But maybe I wasn't savoring everything in between. I was looking for stuff to savor. I was really trying to find, like, give me a moment to dig into and think about. I liked the moment where he goes to the parents' room.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I think I said out loud, "Okay, here we go."
Yeah.
And then
you're watching this movie by yourself.
I was.
Yeah.
I was saying things.
Okay, here we go.
No, but you're right. When because it's actually Kaylee that goes up to the.
Oh, that was Kaylee. That was Kaylee. Yes.
But when she goes up, it's like when she opens the door and you don't see the dad ever, and he's sitting on the bed, and you're like,
it's so uncomfortable.
It's so uncomfortable.
I think I also said something out loud, and I was also like.
I was hoping if the movie...
I was also watching it.
I didn't want... The rest of the movie didn't need to be that scene for me. But if it went in that direction, where there was, like, just more interaction, or more... a suggestion of something happening, I guess.
Because that is like a short story within it. I will say something about that scene.
Yeah, let's get into that scene, because that was,
Well, I watched it with subtitles, so it tells you other things. So when
subtitles are so weird like that.
They're so weird like that. And I have a habit of just watching everything with subtitles now. I don't know. But like, so when the mom gets up and goes into the darkness and like the entity monster creature thing is there, it actually says bones crunching.
Yeah.
I had subtitles on at that time, and I saw that.
Right? And I was like, oh, I wonder what I would have thought, like, without subtitles. Because, like...
Yeah.
It could sound like bones, but I don't know.
Yeah. And if it is bones crunching, are we trying to say that the mom is dead? Are we trying to say... Yeah, no, it's such an interesting... But I think it's such a... I feel like it's relatively early on in the movie, right? Like, it's...
Like a third of the way.
Yeah, it's like definitely not central, but I think it's such a focal point of the movie, right? Like, I think a lot of the tension of the movie is about that, right? Whatever the fuck is going on with these two parents, right? Yeah. Is what this kid is experiencing, like, this tension over, this dread, this drama. Again, going back to our reading that it's like... like a stress stream, right? Like a
when I wanted to hear what people on the internet thought, I saw a lot of connections between that and the beginning, because it's kind of the only two moments that really involve the parents.
Like when he falls
down,
okay,
because they both suggest some distance between the parents. I've seen people say something about abuse.
I saw that too.
In any fashion,
right?
I mean, maybe.
I mean, there is one line where, I don't remember which kid says it, but like, The one says something about mom, and then the other one.
I think
like,
Kaylee says like, I don't want to
talk about mom.
Yeah,
and that was another moment. I was like, okay, here's give me a story.
Here's plot.
Come
on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no. Aaron, I guess in the end, I do hear your frustration about like a lack of more explicit plot stuff.
It's not
right?
narrative
like, it's not
based.
No,
like I had my partner Tyler watch it, and he was like, "This is your jam."
Yeah.
Like he's also an English professor, so he was like, I need a plot, or I need like a narrative. Not always, but it was too.
Yeah. So Jen, if it's as the champion of this movie, really, you gave it a 9, while the rest of us gave it a lower. If it's not narrative based, like where is the value in the movie? What do you think?
I think in the visual. I think that like for me to enjoy a horror movie, it has to be visually interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I thought the like composition of the shots, like there's one shot with like the silhouette of a fan and it's like blue behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so simple, but it's so creepy and like pretty at the same time. Like it was beautiful. Like I thought the movie was very pretty, which is a really weird thing to say, but
no. Well, that's your whole art style too.
It is.
It's like
I know that's the problem.
And you must not have celiac disease for you to enjoy that much grain.
Hey, that's going to be the cold open of the episode. That's glorious.
But in speaking on the aesthetic of it, or the perspective, one thing that what I realized after the fact was like, wait a second. Some shots seem very deliberately from Kevin's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Or in parallel with a kid that age.
Yeah.
Again, like you're trying to experience it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, some shots are just as if there were a hidden camera.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stationary.
Yeah.
Some shots were somehow neither. And, and channeled through the director.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was very jarring.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know where my place was in the movie.
It's like how in The Great Gatsby, right? Like one of the only flaws of that novel. Sorry, we're getting literary here. I've had some gin. In The Great Gatsby, one of the only flaws of that novel is that they switch from Nick Carraway's perspective for like one chapter for narrative convenience, right? Like it feels like if you're going for like an artsy, kind of avant-garde thing, you should stick to a principle, right? And if that principle is you are getting the child's perspective, you shouldn't compromise that for any reason, right?
In that regard, because now I'm thinking about it, do you guys think that Kevin should have been the one to go up to the room with the parents too?
I mean, sure.
Like with Kaylee?
Maybe with Kaylee, but,
sure.
at least have him there.
But I would have liked to have had the whole story either from his perspective or just like a third person following that. Like, I would have just wanted more consistency out of it.
Yeah.
No, it's a really interesting point, because I was like, I noticed it's a lot of still shots, panning shots, and then like, where it's like shaky, kind of like found footage-ish, sort of.
I think calling it a found, like, a lot of people want to compare it to like Paranormal Activity. Like you mentioned Paranormal Activity in the beginning.
I will have to talk more about Paranormal Activity.
I'd love to have you talk about that in a second. But I feel like that comparison is not exactly right. Right? I don't think this is a found footage movie. I think, and I also don't think that it's right to say that it's a movie from the child's perspective. I think that this is a movie about intentionally obscuring the subject, right? It's about intentionally making it so that you're not quite sure what's happening, right? Like this all gets back at my like thematic idea about the like powerlessness of the kids and stuff like that. So like I'm not really bothered by the changes in perspective.
It didn't really bother me.
Because none of it makes it any clearer exactly what's happening, I don't, but go on, Paranormal Activity.
Now I want to respond to what
you
said.
Sure.
I don't care whether stories are realistic. I like stories that abide by internal consistency.
Mm.
Like, I want to feel like the writer or director or whoever has an understanding of the world that they created.
Yeah.
And I'm not convinced that, forgive me, I don't know the director's name.
It's, I actually just looked it up because
Kyle.
I'm a fucking hack.
Isn't it?
Of course his name's Kyle.
Kyle Edward Ball.
Yes.
Is his name.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that he, like, had rules or a grasp on the story he was telling. Again, I think it was a lot of, like, well, what if I did this next? Wouldn't this be cool? I'll let people figure it out.
I do have one thing to say.
But to go... So the thing that kept making me think of Paranormal Activity is the sort of the slow burn with each successive shot. You might expect something a little more to happen, which kind of did happen, but more holistically.
Yeah.
It was less consistent from shot to shot. I think I would have liked it more if the build-up were more consistent.
Sure.
But that might be the reason that you like it, because you didn't know what to expect.
Right. Right.
The other thing that I keep thinking of with Paranormal Activity.
Sorry, I just heard Pornormal Activity, which is a great parody.
We're going to have to make that. There we go.
It might exist already.
It probably does.
It is done.
Oh my god.
Which I do like that first movie, if you can't tell.
I liked it too.
Yeah, me too.
I liked that had a very solid rule for the point of view. This is through cameras. And I think I was expecting something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I was trying to... It took me way too long to try and parse the perspective.
You were looking for...
Until I threw my hands up in the air like, oh, it's whatever
You're
perspective.
looking for, like, a reason
you
why
were
the
looking
camera-
for, like, an explicit logic to this movie.
I wanted a rule. Give me one rule. Give me one single rule for this movie.
There are no rules. Oh my god. So you mentioned the director not having like a clear like how did you word it?
He didn't understand his own world or rules.
Okay, yeah. So it's been like 2 weeks since I read any articles or skimmed them more like it, but and I'm gonna get this wrong, but I know the director is gay, and I thought that in one of the many articles I skimmed, probably mushing interviews together, he said something to the effect of that it was, I want to say like, about, like, not, I don't know if turmoil is the right word, or like, you know, about being queer. I don't quite, there's like some kind of like metaphor, I think, that like he was thinking along those lines with it. When you were talking in the beginning and saying like, because I was like, I don't really see that. And as like a queer person, I'm like, I just don't.
You're right.
I just don't know how I
see
that. But you said like the dark entity kind of like, I don't know, this kid like battling with this like dark entity that's in the house. I was like, oh, like, is the dark entity like realizing that you're gay and like the kid is like fighting that or like trying to figure out how to work with that? I don't know. Again, I probably butchered everything that was in that.
I feel like I saw something. I think I saw
some more evidence on that one.
As soon as you said it was ringing a bell with something I read, and whatever I read, it clicked when I read it. And
okay.
We're gonna have to
it might be the same thing.
We're gonna have to go back and look at it, because I'd love to have to see that again and lay it out, because it made sense when I saw it, but I think we're...
Yeah, I know.
We gotta find it.
Yeah,
pick it up again.
Definitely. Yeah. I don't know. So where do we go from here? I mean, the thing I was thinking about closing with, are we ready for closing yet?
Sure.
Are there other
Why
things
not?
we want to talk about? I mean...
I don't have anything specific.
Nothing that would probably not be redundant.
Nothing new.
Yeah. It's just like maybe closing out with our ultimate what the fuck moments from this movie. And so...
Okay. So
let's do what the fuck moments.
I said that I liked the bedroom scene.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that it kind of got paralleled in the last scene.
Okay.
And even though as soon as the movie ended, I said, oh, God damn it.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
I did the final 30-second shot was haunting in its own way.
Yeah. It was weird. It was scary.
And this is very anecdotal, but the one jump scare I didn't totally hate was with the freaking telephone toy.
Yeah, what the fuck was that?
Because
what the fuck, right? Like, what the fuck?
And my mom called me yesterday to tell me she just bought that toy for my kid. so you know I'm going to be looking at it intensely.
No, you're going to throw it right in the garbage.
Yeah.
So,
don't even bring it home.
Right? So the telephone scene is your what the fuck moment.
Why not?
That's good. No, that's good. That's fairly accurate. I don't know what my what the fuck moment. I ask these questions and I don't even think about my own answer to them.
Okay, I have a quick question. Is what the fuck what the fuck is happening, or define what the fuck?
I think it's open to interpretation.
Okay, cool.
Maybe the moment it could be a moment of what the fuck is happening, but it could be a moment where you, depending on what we're talking about here, is just the moment that made you feel the most unsettled or unhinged or whatever that means to you,
cool.
in the moment for the movie. I'm going to say my what the fuck moment. My what the fuck moment is the ending. Yeah, literally last shot. The face with asking what's your name? Nothing. Right? That is just really literally just describing the scene to you. I got a little bit of chills going on. It's haunting and it does what horror is supposed to do, which is make you question why that's so unsettling to you, right? I'm not sure what the answer is, but I'll probably be thinking about it for a while.
So also go with that faces.
It's
weird.
so vague too, right?
It's so vague.
Nondescript.
It's a real microcosm.
Yeah, totally.
I think my what the fuck was, I don't know why I think about this part a lot, but when the monster tells Kevin to put the knife in his mouth,
Jesus fucking Christ.
I was just I remember, I think you see the back of a couch as it's happening.
You see nothing.
You see nothing.
Yep.
And then, I'm there with, my hands over my mouth, oh my god, what's happening?
Yeah.
And then you hear him crying.
It's the crying.
So painful.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the blood on the cabinet or whatever. That just, I was I literally saw nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so disturbed right now.
And then he calls 911.
God,
I have a
911 call.
That's my secondary what the fuck moment. And I think it's actually kind of more in line with what you're talking about, your critique of this movie, which is that, it seems odd to me that, we have this kind of clear, realistic 911 call for this kid who, is just, a kid maybe living out a concussion dream.
Hold on.
What I mean?
I'm going to have to... can I go back and revise what I said?
Totally.
Because it's not just... It's difficult for me to actually say this out loud.
Yeah.
It's not just that a little kid puts a knife through his eye.
Right.
But that he then, on his own, his family missing, calls 911.
Right.
You hear a fairly realistic conversation with it, and then the phone is taken away from him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty upsetting.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's upsetting because just because this kid has no agency. That's my takeaway from this movie.
Yeah. He can't get out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
literally no way. Yeah.
Which is confirmed in the phone call too. Which you're he's so tiny.
I know. And it's weird to have this movie make you make distinctions between a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old as far as who you're made to empathize with a little bit more. I mean, you watch the 4-year-old suffer more, for sure. Because, Kaylee is out of the game earlier in the movie in a kind of a vague way, right?
And you don't see you don't hear or see anything with the face. You see the face, but, you don't hear it happening.
Yeah. Another what the fuck moment for me, if I may. The statement about her not cooperating, so I had to take away her mouth. That's I don't know exactly what that means, but it's very disturbing to me.
That line, I was it's so simple and so
Like unsettling?
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yes. Oh my god.
Totally. Alright, well, this movie made me feel like shit.
Can we watch something with a story next time?
Maybe. I don't know. We gotta see what's coming up. Anyway, well, Aaron, thanks for joining us on this movie.
Thank you.
Yeah, totally.
It was a good time.
And good times. Cheers.
Cheers.
And we'll end with a cheers. A clink.